the Bean Man, Butterbean.
Eric Esch, better known as Butterbean, has fought 91 professional bouts, winning 77, 58 by knockout. Many of his matches you will find in our videos dedicated to Eric, but Butterbean was too charismatic and popular to retire from fighting altogether. In 2003, he had his first MMA and kickboxing fights. His MMA record stands at 17 wins and 10 losses, and kickboxing 3 wins and 4 losses. As you may have guessed, this video is about Eric's fights outside of the boxing ring. Let's get started. The first fight on our list is a staged fight between Eric Esch and Johnny Knoxville. Despite the fact that this fight was held as a scene for a filming of a movie, judging by the enthusiasm of the spectators, they did not expect such a bright and dramatic performance. After Butterbean knocked out Johnny, he challenged the Beast Bob Sapp in a match using sumo rules. Unfortunately for Butterbean, Bob was simply unbelievable in this battle and won in the first seconds of the fight. After the fight, Butterbean promised to knock out Sapp by K1 rules, but unfortunately, that fight never took place. Now we move on to real fights and shift our focus to the K1 tournament in 2003. Butterbean is tired of facing amateurs in boxing and decided to challenge himself by competing in the K1 fields. Yusuke Fujimoto was his opponent. At the start of the match, Fujimoto expectedly started kicking from a distance, trying to knock out Butterbean with head kicks. Eric then frightened Yusuke, then pressed the ninja to the ropes and countered his attacks with a series of punches. In contrast to his usual bouts in the boxing ring, this match ended with Butterbean knocking out his opponent in the first round. And that was Butterbean's debut in the K1 tournament, but much harder trials lay ahead. Defeating the Japanese opponent, Butterbean had a chance to go up against kickboxing legend Ernesto the Dutchman Hoost. But Eric was surrounded by friends who convinced him not to take the fight because of the Dutchman's kickboxing skills. That's how Butterbean gave up the fight with Hoost, but was not afraid to go against the now deceased Mike Bernardo. In the first round, Mike struck with a hard low kick that did not allow Butterbean to close the distance, keeping Eric from landing his powerful punches up close. Although Eric blocked Bernardo's low kicks several times, and this helped him a lot, by the end of the first round, he had fallen twice. The second round began with another hard low kick to Butterbean's hips, and then Mike delivered a final head kick, knocking Eric out. Butterbean recovers and accepts defeat, knowing that if he got up, he would definitely lose in any case. It was a second round knockout victory for Bernardo. Eric's kickboxing career was not that impressive, and Mike Bernardo showed us why. In the next 4 fights, Eric won only once, and that was by judge's decision against Marcus Royster. And as we have seen, even the legendary Mike Tyson cheered on Butterbean with all his heart. In the last fight in 2009, Eric gained several hundred pounds and went against the Korean Moon Bolam, and showed that even in this form, he is capable of destroying his opponent. From the very beginning of the round, the Korean started delivering low kicks to our hero. But soon, Butterbean overtook him and severely punished the Korean. It was a straightforward knockout, after which it took the Korean a long time to come to his senses. Many of Butterbean's fans were very surprised by this knockout and the intense charisma. Now that we have covered Eric's brightest moments in kickboxing, we move on to the MMA, where his career was much brighter and more violent. The first fight we focus on is Eric's trip to Hawaii for the Rumble on the Rock tournament. It was a meeting with local fighter Wesley Corriera, with the organizers so keen to see Eric in this show that they prepared special rules for him. These rules limited ground fighting to only 15 seconds per instance, regardless of the situation. Wesley started the match more actively, throwing low kicks and jabs that were ineffective. Eric wasted no energy, waiting until he could get in close and stun his opponent. Eric strikes his opponent with several low kicks, shortly after which Wesley successfully takes Butterbean down and starts a 15-second bout of ground fighting, which was stopped by the referee. Eric put all his power into his punches but couldn't wipe out Corriera, who in turn punches Eric with heavy elbows against the net. In the second round, Butterbean went on the offensive. Eric struck a double, and a hard netting began. Wesley simply falling off his feet from fatigue and unable to even stand. And with the support of his enthusiastic Hawaiian fans, Eric forced his opponent into the net until the very end of the round. Unfortunately, during the second round, Wesley broke his arm and failed to reach the third round. Thus, Butterbean won this difficult fight. 2 years later, they met again in a rematch, this time under K1 rules. Now let's move on to 2006 for Eric's fight against Aaron Aguilera, also known as Zodiac. He was a wrestler who claimed to be able to cope with Butterbean's MMA rules and did not hesitate to go into the cage even though it was his first and only MMA duel. Aguilera, who bragged about his Thai boxing skills, tried to deliver something similar to a dropkick, but instead runs into a bomb from Butterbean. Aguilera escaped by engaging Butterbean on the floor. He attempts to strike Eric, but the referee calls the 15-second ground fighting limit, defined by the rules, and separates the fighter, bringing an end to this interesting but unorthodox round of fighting in the cage. At the start of the second round, Butterbean threw a good powerful jab and a few overhand strikes, after which the fight went back to the floor. Again, the referee quickly separated the fighters and got them back to their feet. For a time, both fighters play it safe and protect themselves. At the end of the match, Butterbean pounces on his opponent and tries to simply crush the poor man using a wrestling move. Aaron decides to bring the match to an end and taps out, giving Eric the win. By 2006, Butterbean had already won 6 MMA fights with 3 painful defeats. Eric had confidence in himself and wanted to fight Mark Hunt, but the Nevada Commission would not allow the matchup, arguing Hunt's unfair advantage in experience over Esch. Then in Las Vegas, our hero organized a duel against a pro wrestler who had also had some experience and several wins in the K1 and MMA, Sean O'Hare. Sean's only task in the cage was not to repeat the fate of Aaron Aguilera. Sean didn't start off badly, but instead of fighting Butterbean from a distance as other fighters did, he decided to commit MMA suicide by getting in close. Eric did not pass up this opportunity and began to heartily beat Sean, finishing him off in the first 30 seconds of round 1. Another victory for Eric, and his subsequent return to the Pride was a real clash of the Titans. The next stop for Butterbean was the organization Cage Rage and his fight against James Thompson, who had long taught his audience that when he went into a duel, it would certainly end in a knockout for his opponent. Thompson's game plan allowed no other outcome in his mind. Thompson trash-talked Eric before the match, predicting a quick win. Instead, it was a quick finish from Butterbean, who stopped James Thompson 43 seconds into round 1. Although many disputed the stoppage of the fight, Eric was given the win, showing that his unique style gave him a chance in the MMA. And at the end of 2007, a match was held that everyone was waiting for: Butterbean versus Zuluzo. In the ring, almost a half a ton of live weight, each of the fighters weighing 200 kilograms. But Zuluzo looked only half as big as Butterbean. It was a fierce fight at the beginning, and Zuluzo realized that he was not coping well against Eric, clinching and then holding a takedown. Eric worked from the top and tried to connect a powerful strike, but then unexpectedly catches his opponent's hand and uses a kimura. So Zuluzo had nothing left to do but to surrender in defeat in this incredible clash of two giants. By the way, before this fight, only Emelianenko and Nogueira had defeated Zuluzo, and now Butterbean, the jiu-jitsu master, appeared on the list. Throughout his career outside the boxing ring, Eric received 10 painful victories. We would have liked to have shown more of his fights, but footage is rare for these matches, and some we already covered in other videos. In addition to his sports career, Butterbean owns his own restaurant, which he calls Mr. Beans. Fame and money didn't destroy him. Instead, it helped Eric to become a good person and a philanthropist that frequently engages in charity. That's all for today. Please press the like button, write your comments, and subscribe to the channel if you are interested in our content. See you next time.